The following is a presentation of SIRTOBA Media and COMI Media Incorporated.
Welcome back. Brandon Aiyuk targeting Amon St. Brown's $120 million deal for a new contract. Veteran center Billy Price retires after terrifying blood clot. And NFL to evaluate Paris and Dublin for future games on international schedule. All that and more on this edition of Total Football Talk. Oh, yeah, it's that time of week again when you are back for some Total Football Talk action. I'm your co-host, Drew Willingham, along with my co-host, the EP of all EPs, the legend himself, my man, Kyle Johnson. Welcome back to the show here, brother.
I'm glad that I'm here. Glad I'm doing this with you. And I already know I'm preparing for the Tyrone Alizé McDummy portion of the show. And we haven't even started.
You know, we cannot have an episode without Tam one way or another.
Tam.
Delete! 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 Delete!
Get that mess on up out of here.
Tam. Oh, Lord.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are already starting out episode 39 with shenanigery as we are up here on this Memorial Day. You guys, hopefully you're having a safe and great time out there, getting the grills fired up. Hopefully you guys will be doing that this afternoon. I will be at my full-time career this afternoon, but luckily today we have a very special time, a very special episode between Cole and myself. We have some football action to recap from this past weekend. Week 9 action in the UFL. Definitely something that we talked about last week. There was only one more team in the remaining 2 weeks that had an opportunity to knock off the undefeated Stallions. And we saw that come into fruition this past week. It was definitely great to watch this. And Shady Sports Network's in the house. What? Cole is talking UFL. Well, Shady Sports Network, this is the 9th straight week of us talking UFL action. Actually, technically 10th because we previewed week 1. So, yeah, this is 2.5 months of us going ham with Tam on the UFL action today. Even Mickey Delaney's in the house. This is morning, everyone, because where he's at, he is 3 hours back. So, it's technically 9:21 in the morning right now.
Well, it's still morning for me. So, yeah, morning to you, Mick. And morning to you, Sam.
Facts. And I forgot, it is technically still morning for you. It's the cusp of the afternoon for you. You are right on the cusp of reaching noon, and you will reach the afternoon. For Cole, see, that's what's great. When Cole starts Total Football Talk today, he starts it in the morning and ends it in the afternoon. That's how great we are with our timing today.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
So,
but yeah, good afternoon to you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. It's starting off great today, but you know one thing that we are not going to be today, Cole? We are not going to be either one of these. We are not going to be a dumpster pelican on this show. We're not. because when
no
we woke
dumpster
up this morning, it wasn't
Mhm.
time for that. It was not time for that at all. But enough with the shenanigery. As we talked about in the opening statement, we've got some NFL things to talk about: a retirement due to a blood clot, someone seeking a big contract, and the NFL evaluating new locations, along with the new locations for games in the upcoming future. With that being said, we've also got the UFL action. And with that being said, we have to take this into our opening segment, and that is the
All right.
opening drive.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Break.
Here this week in the UFL action. We'll start this off with the first game of the week being the St. Louis Battlehawks and the Arlington Renegades, hosted in Arlington, Texas. You know, you've got right here the Renegades who come into this game not with only one win on the year, struggling after going to the XFL championship last year. You know, they put up 36 points. Yeah, they put up 36 points in this game, Cole. I mean, it's a lot of points for the Arlington Renegades to put up against the St. Louis Battlehawks team for the second straight week, who is without AJ McCarron. You know, they have Manny Wilkins in there, the backup quarterback. He's only able to get 179 passing yards, a touchdown, 3 interceptions, which is key into why they lost by 14 points here. He did add 10 carries with 51 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Jacob Sailors as well on the ground, 14 carries, 104 yards with 1 reception for 11 yards and a touchdown. The Battlehawks defense only 1 sack on the day. They were quiet. They were also turning the ball over as well. That was a huge difference maker in why the Renegades won, as Luis Perez capitalized on those 3 interceptions that his team received on defense, to leading his offense to 259 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. Sal Cannella, 5 receptions, 70 yards and a touchdown, along with Isaiah Winstead, 4 receptions, 64 yards and a touchdown to help this Renegades offense get over the hump and win by 14 points as they scored 36 on the day. The Renegades running backs on the day had 23 rushing attempts, 88 rushing yards, but no touchdowns again, for like the 3rd or 4th consecutive week. The Renegades defense, though, I think was the big difference maker and what tipped the scales in this matchup. 3 interceptions on the day and a TD on top of that with one of those interceptions by Joe Powell. You know, when you put all that in perspective and you think of, you have a 1-7 Arlington Renegades team coming here against a 6-2 Battlehawks team that has their backup quarterback in there for the second straight week. They've been struggling back-to-back weeks. What are your thoughts on the decline of the Battlehawks in the past 2 weeks? In the, I guess maybe in a small fashion, the resurgence of the Renegades, showing that they are not completely a dumpster Pelican-esque team?
I think the best way that I could describe this particular game is, like I've said to the Renegades, they've basically been the little engine that could, and they've had these close but not quite type games. They finally get a W a couple weeks back. Then they have another close but not quite game. And then they have probably the second best performance of the year. Excuse me. What I would notice, I would say that this might damage, I guess you could say, the confidence of the Battlehawks. But I would say I think the Battlehawks are okay. The only problem is really we now cannot consider AJ McCarron to be MVP this year. I'm thinking now he'll have now 2 less games in which to sample with others who probably have played to now 9, hopefully 10 full games in the season. So if it did anything, it probably hurt AJ McCarron's chances of being the UFL MVP in 2024. Other than that, it's a morale booster for the Renegades, obviously. I mean, good, because they've been playing sport over the last 5 weeks. So they now probably maybe gave some confidence issue things to consider for the Battlehawks. But I think if they were to get McCarron back on the field, a lot of the issues that they have, I think, will be, I won't say solved, but I think it would be alleviated just a bit.
I think you're spot on with that too, and it goes to show like how much of leadership that AJ McCarron has on this offense, because they definitely struggled on the day when you have their backup quarterback in there and not doing the things that AJ McCarron is usually accustomed to doing. He's not moving the chains. He's not converting for first downs as much as you would like to see. And when you see time of possession in comparison, you have the Renegades who have 32 minutes and 10 seconds in comparison to the Battlehawks 27:50. And I know some of you out there are probably saying, well, Drew, it's only a few minutes. It's not really a big difference maker. Every like a few 3 to 4 minutes in the possession of a game is huge, especially yes, like you said, every second counts. I mean, the Battlehawks even had one more drive than the Renegades. They had 11 total drives in comparison to 10 by the Renegades, and 2 less plays on those drives. But you know, the difference in yardage really was close. It wasn't really that much of a difference of a game. What really tipped the scales was those 3 interceptions thrown by Wilkins. Had Wilkins not thrown the 3 interceptions, I think the Battlehawks would have had a chance to come out of this game with the W. Because the team that has been underperforming all year long as far as the inability to close games is the one that got the win in this. And we've been talking about it for several weeks about there were several losses that the Renegades were facing in getting through that they should have won. I mean, they could easily be a team right now that we could say is 4-5 or 5-4.
5-4.
With how they've played. And looking at it now, I hope that they're able to rebuild on this offseason, but it's going to be it's time will only tell. And it looks like we got some more comments up in here. You know, Mickey saying, "Where is Ike?" Well, Ike, I guess, showed up during that because he says, "What's up, homies?" With a Z.
Oh, good. First Ike and now you. Goodness gracious. Okay.
Hey,
what's up, Ike?
He said it. He typed it. I said it. Yeah, there we go. I read it. He said it. I read it. There we go. That's how we'll go with it. But Shady Sports, Sam Shady's in here saying Joe Powell returned to Arlington only after playing several games with the Carolina Cobras in the NAL. He still leads the league in interceptions 2 weeks after leaving. That's a fun fact right there. I did not know that. So you're still leading the league in interceptions. You've gone to another league. And now you are treating the other offenses like they are absolute dumpster pelicans. I love it. Great fun fact of the day, Sam Shady. Thank you for bringing that to our attention when it comes to that. But when it comes to this team right here, you know, I think if AJ McCarron is sitting out the rest of the season or sitting out for the rest of the season and they get to the playoffs, they're not going to win that game with their backup quarterback that they have in right now. You know, and there's nobody available that you can bring in to play this week and get you ready for the following week to have 2 consecutive weeks of okay play to have a chance to get to the UFL championship. I think the Battlehawks season, unfortunately, after all the things that we were seeing for the first month and a half, as much of excitement as we were having with that team again, I think that is the ship has finally sailed, and we've seen this Brahmas team that has coasted throughout the majority of this year as a team that is really, really good. And we'll talk about them a little bit more, but I think that they have surpassed the current team as the Battlehawks that we're talking about as far as who's better as far as representation of the XFL division.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously the Battlehawks, well, obviously they'll be in the playoffs. But what's unfortunate is in their XFL season last year, they were doing wonderful, and then they sort of had this swoon late in the season last year, and it's almost as if recent history is repeating itself with them. And I hope they can rebound, and I hope they can find what it takes to execute what they need to, because I agree, their upcoming playoff tilt against the Brahmas, they can't play like this.
No, they absolutely cannot. And it's going to be an interesting thing to see what they can do and what they can pull off going forward, as we only have 1 week left in the regular season. Definitely will be interesting to see how they pan it out. Now moving on to a game that I think you would agree was the following. And that game being between the DC Defenders and the Memphis Showboats. The DC Defenders winning the game 36-21. And this was in Memphis. You embarrassed this team at home, the DC Defenders. Traveling, Memphis, a place that Co is well familiar with. He knows all about that Memphis area very well. And when you look at this team in the Memphis Showboats, and what happened, I mean, Jordan Ta'amu comes into town, 237 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, but does throw 2 interceptions. Now, I say this because most games you watch, if this happens, the other team's going to capitalize on it, like on the past game that we just talked about, where one team throws 3 interceptions, other team gets the win. In this game, Jordan Ta'amu throws 2 interceptions, and they still win by 2 touchdowns. So that goes how bad this Memphis Showboats team is right there. And on the ground as well, Jordan Ta'amu also had 4 carries for 38 yards and a touchdown. You know, Kiki Kuti also was a big receptions leader on the day, 5 receptions, 9 yards, along with Chris Rowlands, 3 receptions, 49 yards, got one of those 2 touchdowns from Jordan Ta'amu. But the big stat line here is the defenders were relentless in running the football as they had 38 rushing attempts on the day, Cole. 38 rushing attempts for, you guess it, 168 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes. This is a game that you and I have both been clamoring for all year long, especially out of this Defenders team, which the Defenders were primarily known last year. And the reason why they had so much success because they could do things on all 3 phases of the game, but they ran the ball extremely well, which is what set up the play action pass for Jordan Ta'amu and the things that we were watching from last year. So this was like watching the DC Defenders of last year. The sad part is it took playing one of the worst teams in the league to get this type of performance out of the DC Defenders, as it's a reason why they are currently 4-5 on the season. But, you know, looking at how this game rounded out, on top of that, the Defenders defense, they were making their mark too. They had 1 sack on the day, but the biggest stat line is they had 2 interceptions. Looking at what happened here with the Memphis Showboats, you had Josh Love coming in for the injured Case Cookies from the previous week, 105 passing yards with a touchdown, 2 interceptions, and then he also contributed with 2 carries for 9 yards and a touchdown, but the 2 interceptions is what helped spark the deficit by losing 36-21, in my opinion. You know, but also the Showboats running backs. This was a game by running on both sides of the ball for both teams, because the Showboats running backs also had 20 rushing attempts for 126 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So between the Defenders and the Showboats, these 2 teams combined for nearly 400 rushing yards on the day. Am I reading that right? Or no, they combined for nearly 300 rushing yards on the day. It's still a lot of rushing yards combined between 2 teams. So when you think about all that, you know, on top of that, Dawood Davis having 5 receptions for 73 yards, and the son of the invincible man from Philadelphia, Vinny Papali, 3 receptions, 26 yards, contributing for that Showboats offense, but not enough to get this team over the hump as they lost by 15 points. What are your thoughts when looking at the team such as DC Defenders and the struggles they've had over the past couple weeks, getting a win, but against a very bad team, and only doing so after converting off of 2 interceptions that they received from the other team, but also Jordan Ta'amu throwing 2 interceptions? There's a lot of chaos that happened for the Defenders to get this win this past weekend.
Yeah, obviously this wasn't a perfect win. And I'm not even just talking about the one getting it against the 1-7, now 1-8 Showboats. The one thing that you can hang the hat on is the fact that they were able to control the clock and control the game and tempo. That's what you do when you can run the ball the way you do, the way the Defenders did against the Showboats. So you can hang your hat on that. I think that has been something that they've been wanting to do, and you mentioned it. That's something they've been wanting to do, and I think you've been seeing the frustrations as to the mixed bag of success that they have had in executing it. And the Defenders, to me, they are a good case study with, I think, how football in totality is. If you can run the ball, you can control everything else. But if you lack having that confidence in the running game, everything else seems to just go straight down the toilet, starting with quarterback play and not excluding pass rushing, run stopping. I mean, it affects everything else. Even infects and affects how the coach on the sideline calls different plays and strategies. When you can have that success in running the ball like the defenders had this past weekend, you can do this more often. Now, is that to say if you carry the ball 38 times, get 163 yards, that you'll win every single game? No, but you'll definitely be in all of them if you do. So I think that's what they've been needing, and they've been pressing hard to get to this point. Yeah, okay, it came against the Showboats, but still, it came against a team in the UFL. They put on their pants the same way as the defenders do. And that is something they should hang their head on. Yes, the quarterback play could be cleaned up still. The defense could be a little stiffer. But if you could put up that many points and put up that many yards on the ground, you really can't complain all that much. But was it perfect? No. But it was a good win, and I think it's probably the best win that the defenders have had all year.
Oh, I'd absolutely agree with that too. It was not a fun game to watch. It was not like, the first contest we talked about where they both teams put up a lot of points between the Battlehawks and the Renegades. But, out of all the games this past weekend, I would say this one was probably one of the ones that if you watched it from the beginning to the end was not really much entertainment. It was not like the beer snake was at full effect and they were celebrating this through and through. It was mainly the turnovers throughout the second half and the things that kind of slipped away from one team, but kind of came into the grasp of positive results for another, so seeing how this panned out for the defenders was nice, but if only some of these losses they had earlier in the year had turned into wins like this, we'd be talking about this team potentially being a playoff team right now instead of a team on the outside looking in.
Right. Yeah. And that's why, and I was thinking about this. I think when they played the Brahmas and they had a close game like that and they resulted in an L, my thought was then, I was like, man, they're going to regret playing a game like this and taking it on the chin because they're going to want that game back. Because it just goes to show if a team even early in this season can play in the clutch better than another, it can come back and it can really have good effects if you're the Brahmas. We'll talk about them later, obviously. Or it could have devastating effects, like in the defenders in their case, where they can have a game like this, and it's like, yeah, we have this wonderful game, but it's all for naught. That is how important these games are.
Absolutely. We got some new viewers popping in the house. We got Playmaker in the house saying D Willy and Kyle Johnson up in here.
What's up, Playmaker? Good seeing you, man.
Yeah, always good to see Playmaker in the house. I gotta get Playmaker on here for an episode of the In or Out Sports Debate at some point on SIRTOBA Media. Yeah. I know that would definitely be a great combative episode back and forth. But first, before we do that, we still got to figure out this legendary trios edition between you and Kyle Nash. I mean, that is something that is still lingering in the background. We're at some point this week, I'm going to have to bring this conversation to light between the two of you. And we're going to have to open up our calendars, and we are going to have to figure this out. It has got to happen. Kyle Nash is talking so much smack about him wanting to debate you in football and even other sports. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes.
It's let me see if I could be as humble as I possibly can. I of course, I love you, and of course I love Kyle and I respect him greatly. When it comes to this debate that we will eventually have on our sports debate, he made one key mistake. He opened his mouth.
Yes! This is why I love being the host of that show where I'm along for the ride. You two are gonna be the ones duking it out. Of course, I give my 2 cents, whatever the topic is.
Mm-hmm.
In a trios edition, I love it because the attention is off of me. I get to play the Bob Barker role of the show and stay out of it for the most part. And that is the part I love about trios editions and what I'm going to look forward to when it comes to that episode right there. Now, carrying on, we've got Sick Diggy finally joining us in the house saying good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
He also says, what in the Norwegian dark blue hell is this madness? Are you talking about our color scheme? You just jumped in with that comment 6 minutes ago, and we were just talking football. It wasn't 6 minutes ago. We were talking about the second game of the week. So I don't remember any dark blue madness going on in that. It's got to be. It's got to be right here with the color scheme. But, hey, I love it. Mickey says also Kyle needs to stay in his lane. I'm definitely chopping this up and giving it to Kyle later. Kyle, was this a total
surprise, motherfucker?
Oh, let's bring Devon up in here to do this.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our special Memorial Day edition of Total Football Talk.
Well, now you're going to try to butt it up and be professional. Okay.
You can't handle the truth.
I'm trying to have a good combination of shenanigans, professionalism, and greatness on Memorial Day.
What?
I don't have to repeat it. You already know what I said. The only thing we're missing right now we're having a good turnout here in the comments. We appreciate you all. The one person I'm still missing for weeks, and where in the blank has he been, is this gentleman. The reason why is because we have some Dallas things to bring into fruition here. And
I'd love for Victor to be here.
Yes, we have some Dallas things to talk about, especially some CD Lamb stuff, but we still have to finish the UFL action first. And with that being said, we are still in Dallas area, Houston, somewhat, when it comes to this topic right here, as the Michigan Panthers win 26-22 over the Houston Roughnecks in this past weekend's contest. And looking at this game right here, it definitely was a close one as far as score. They put a good amount of points together between both teams. I mean, 26-22, we got a Roughnecks team right here who was 1-7 coming into this game, and ultimately resulting in a 1-8 record by the end of it. But they put up a good fight. 22 points. Michigan depends again on the leg of the one and only Jake Bates, who comes through not by missing the field goal that he was up there to kick. Bryce Perkins also 121 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. What was the big stat line, and I think the reason why the Panthers won this game, Cole, is the rushing attack. Again, another team that had a tough rushing attack, 20 attempts, 121 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns in the end zone to help this team right here. As receiving wise, the Panthers only converted for 1 touchdown, and that was by Mr. Quinn, who had a 17-yard scamper into the end zone. When it comes to the Roughnecks, though, Mr. Henderson right here, Nolan Henderson, who's been playing in replacement of Reed Sinnett back and forth. They've kind of had a 2-quarterback setup since they've been losing over the past few weeks, and he throws for 150 yards for 2 touchdowns. Reed Sinnett only put in 57 passing yards, but could not get the ball in the end zone, which is why old Nolan Henderson played the most. And Mr. Henderson as well, 9 attempts on the ground for 66 yards to help move the chains as well. The only other top leading rusher for the Roughnecks, Marcel Thompson, 11 rushes for 38 yards on the ground. But receiving wise, this guy has definitely been someone that has been a contributor all year long for this team. Even though they've only got 1 win, he's been a spark for them in the times they've had sparks, and that is Justin Hall. 6 receptions, 109 yards for 2 touchdowns, receiving both touchdowns by Nolan Henderson. But it just wasn't quite enough, as the Michigan Panthers here, they were on top of their game. They had 4 sacks on the day on defense. forcing and completely forcing this Roughnecks team, to, especially with the fumble. They had a fumble recovery on the day, but they were just forcing the Roughnecks to not be able to put up so many points here. Even though they did only lose by 4 points, their defense still held it tough against this Roughnecks team, that being the Panthers. Looking at it right here, I know the stats don't really like stick out and don't really seem that appealing, but was this game more like a nose gritting, like, down in the trenches, down in the dirty type of game to get things to where it was only as tight of a game as it was, and why we're seeing this Panthers team elevate to another win on the year?
I say it was. You have two teams where one they love these close, dirty, gritty type games, and you have another who is by far the worst offense in the league. I mean, it's not even a question. If we were doing like a track and field mile, the Roughnecks would be right on par with the lead runner, but the lead runner already has lapped at least the Roughnecks runner. That is how bad the offense of the Roughnecks is. What I'm seeing about the Panthers is that they specialize in winning ugly. They don't seem to be cohesive on either side of the ball, on offense or on defense. That is not to say they lack talent. They do. I mean, you keep talking about the Nakua family almost every week, and they always come up with something. One's a receiver, another is a corner, and they keep to come up with something. There's some stat, some type of play. So they have talent on the team, and of course, we've talked about Jake Bates with his leg. So it's not that they lack talent; it's just that for some reason they just haven't put forth a cohesive game where you're like, wow, okay, this team is a beast. That's just not how they play. And there's certain teams that play this way. In fact, to me, the Roughnecks not Roughnecks. The Panthers remind me of the 1980 Cleveland Browns, where they were called the Cardiac Kids. Every single game was less than a touchdown that they played seemingly. And I think they had like 8 or 9 wins that were less than a touchdown. Now, it's exciting to watch, and if they can make that, if your team can make that one more play than their opponent, it's great as a fan. However, when you have that game where that team and you play that way can make that one more play than you down the stretch, it's going to hurt just as bad. No, it's actually going to hurt worse than it would make you feel excited, because that same 1980 Cleveland Browns team lost on a red right 88 throw into the end zone that fell into the arms of a Raiders defender in the end zone. And they lost that game by 2 points, and they couldn't kick a field goal because the ground was a sheet of ice. And this is Cleveland Stadium. So basically it was ice, painted dirt, and probably some dog biscuits on the field too, and maybe batteries. You know how Northeast Ohio gets down, especially in that dump of stadium. But that was then football. The Panthers win ugly. That's just how they do it. That's just how they are, and they have to bring their competition down to their level to play just as ugly as they do to actually have a chance of a victory. But if the team that they're playing against can execute better for a long stretch, the Panthers will be in for a long day. But this was a game that they won, and they've won many games like this year. So it's not surprising to me that this was a game that had less than a touchdown difference.
Yeah, and especially when you look at the fact that going in to halftime right here, it was only a 6-3 game. I mean, it was a very lackluster game at halftime. And
Yeah.
then, you said, which was a great comparison with the Cleveland Browns. And you said, fall into the arms, right? And when you said fall into the arms, I was thinking, falling into the arms of an angel. I don't know why. For some reason, and as much as I know, that we have had experiences with that particular song in the past. But right here, right now, in this moment, I was thinking that when you said fell into the arms. That's all I could think about. But it came to that. But
I'm sorry, my bad. In the arms of an angel. Oh, bad.
if you wanted football sprinkled in with a little bit of shenanigans,
You got the right one, baby.
you found the right program because we are here for you.
You got the right one, baby. Uh-huh.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Welcome. While you're firing up your grills, getting them dogs and burgers ready to slap on that unit, get ready to celebrate Memorial Day, we're here for the action. And is that a total?
Surprise, motherfucker.
I don't think so. Not for me. Not for Cole. We're here every single Monday. But that's how we rock and roll out here in these streams. And that's how that previous game that we talked about basically comes into a nutshell. Now it's time to talk about our Total Football Talk Game of the Week. And that Game of the Week is brought to you by Total Football Talk, as we are here to talk about said football game. And that being
and also the following Game of the Week is also brought to you by the letter.
Yes, that was definitely way better than what I was going with. But right here in this Game of the Week that we have a team that we've been talking about all year long. Well, I say that, but pretty much for the past 2 months is they were 8-0 coming into this week. Decimating. Well, I wouldn't say decimating, more like eviscerating the competition that was in their path. And coming into this week, you and I talked about last week, there's only 2 games left, and this is the only team out of the remaining 2 weeks that's going to give the Stallions a hard time, and they did, as the Brahmas win this game 18-9 at home, holding a team that's been averaging like 30 to 32 points a game to 9 points to 9 total points. It was absolutely wild to see all that come into fruition. Now, look at this right here. This is a team. This is a team right here that we have publicly stated is, in me being a hater of him, they have this person on their team.
Delete! 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 Delete!
And in case you're new to the program and you're unfamiliar who I am talking about the one that Cole is labeled as Tyrone Alizé McDummy. Damn, we're not even an hour in and Cole needs Advil. Crap. But here we are. Tyrone Alizé McDummy, player for the San Antonio Brahmas. Looking at this game right here,
Mac, Lord have mercy.
But you know why I bring him up, Cole?
Why do you
last week he wasn't even suited up. He had 0 targets. The week before, he had 1 target for 0 yards. This week culminated into action for Tyrone Alizé McDummy, as he had a target. He had a target in this game, and he had a catch in this game, Cole. And he had a catch that converted any first down, Cole. 12 yards. He caught a ball. and converted it for a first down. Tyrone Alizé McDummy did something for real in this game.
For a stat line.
I'm trying.
1 target, 1 reception, 12 yards. Even lauded him on the first day. Why is he putting this as a stat line?
Because I threw so much shade on him in that reel that I don't want him to like get really sad and depressed. I'm trying to give him a good reel, something positive for him to have to build on from this season. I want to help this man because I kind of buried him in the last reel. That's why.
That's understandable. I mean, it was a DNP. How could you not? I understand.
But looking at this right here, the big part of this is Chase Garbers returns to action for the first time in several weeks after going down. And, you know, his team is still playing very well. They're still doing very well throughout the year. Getting to this point, he throws for 139 passing yards on the day and quarterback rating of 85.2. Quentin Dormady gets action, though, still, as he, you know, has been playing well throughout, you know, Chase Garbers' absence. He went 3 of 4 for 44 yards on the day. Anthony McFarland on the ground, 15 carries, 82 yards, no touchdowns, but was the leading rusher for the Brahmas. Jontre Kirkland is the big contributor for this Brahmas receptions team for the receiving corps, as he had 4 receptions for 66 yards on the day. Justin Smith here. Justin Smith. I don't know why John Smith came to my mind from NFL, but 4 receptions, 56 yards, and a touchdown to help this Brahmas team put up those 18 points and get over the hump to win against the Stallions. You know, the defense of the Brahmas on the day, 3 sacks, as well as an interception to help get this team past the Stallions in a 9-point pretty much deficit of a victory, as they won 18-9. But the other part of this too is looking at the special teams here. You know, the Brahmas fumbled the ball, which kind of helped the Stallions out. The Stallions were unable to convert on that fumble. But looking on the other side of the ball, the Stallions fumbled it twice, but they recovered both of those fumbles. This could have been a worse outcome for this team, as, you know, Adrian Martinez, we talked about him potentially being the MVP of the league this year. And he throws 211 passing yards for 1 touchdown, 1 interceptions. It still has a QBR of 73.8. Also adds 5 rushing attempts for 56 yards on the ground. This total rushing for the Stallions team, 15 attempts, 78 yards, no touchdowns. I mean, they absolutely were trying, but they just couldn't get the ball in the end zone on the ground. I think this would hurt them, as primarily throughout the entirety of this year, we've been seeing a dominant attack between their passing game and their running game. They were kind of, you know, more, they are not immortal anymore. They're mortalized now after seeing what we saw in this past weekend. The big contributor, though, and he's been a big contributor for their receivers this year, Jay Sternberger. 7 receptions, 110 yards, and 1 touchdown for the Stallions, which would help keep this team in the game. But had he not done that, this team would have been so far lost, and he was trying to give them as many lifelines as he could. You know, their defense, 3 sacks on the day, but besides that, they were pretty quiet on that day. They did have 1 field goal by Ahmed for 34 yards to also help contribute on the day, but this team was just so far gone. They were so far lost on this. You know, thinking about how things went the first 8 weeks of the season, and now where we're at after week 9, is this loss the type of loss that most teams who are 1-loss teams and have success in the playoffs? Is this something that kind of that this team needed to kind of help boost their chances of winning a now 3rd consecutive league championship?
I think it is. And all right. So hopefully people can follow the logic here. It's great to get the wins. And it's, of course, the more wins you get, the better your chances are to go as far as possible. Now, we are dealing with the UFL, so they don't have to go through they don't have to go through as many teams as in the NFL. But the premise is still the same. You want to have the best conditions possible, or the most favorable conditions possible, and you get that by notching wins. what you also want to have as well is continuity. You want to have some sort of flow. You want to have some sort of chemistry. And I think the only way you can really test it is if you get a chance to see the team lose. Now, I'm not saying that you should root for your team to lose. I'm just saying that sometimes you have to come to that adversity so you can see how they can actually bounce back from it. And if it sounds to go 10-0, and be like, okay, that's fine. But let's understand this. You will have some sort of hubris, some sort of arrogance that you think you're above everybody else and that no one can touch you. I mean, just a little bit. I mean, it doesn't have to go overboard, but you just have that feeling of, well, there's no competition. We're good. And normally you ease up a little bit, and that's when you get got. Football is a sport where you need to have that little bit of hunger in you, that desperation in you, that lets you know, okay, so we want to have that gold, we want to have that ring, we want to have that chip, we want to hoist that trophy. And this team possibly could make us not get that trophy. Team has to play with a little bit of that type of desperation. Maybe I won't say fear, but that little bit of consternation, that little bit of doubt, so they can motivate them to actually play better than their opponent. Now, the Stallions blew through just about everybody in their first 8 weeks. I think they only played one close game, maybe two throughout the season. So, I mean, the season has been really good for the Stallions, but I think they needed to have this type of test against a team where I think now we got to start saying it. The Brahmas feature by far the best collective defense in the UFL. And this actually ended up being the stiffest test that the Stallions have had this year. And should the Brahmas advance to the championship game, this will be the stiffest test that they will face should the Stallions meet them there. And kudos to the Brahmas. I mean, the Stallions came into this game scoring the most points in the UFL, and the 9 points that the Stallions only scored and the Brahmas only allowed now have the Battlehawks edge ahead of the Stallions in scoring the most points this year in the UFL. So you're dealing with two teams, the Stallions and the Brahmas, the two best defenses in the game by far. Best two defenses in the game. The Panthers could give both teams a run for their money defensively, but the Stallions and the Brahmas are the two best defensive teams. You have the Brahmas who they struggle mightily on offense, so they need to have their defense come up big like they did against the Stallions. And if you can have that, I think the Brahmas can actually do this again should they meet for the championship. But for the Stallions, I think they needed this. So when they do play the Brahmas again, or if they play them again this year, now they could say, they hung a nail on us. It's time to pay them back. And you'll see the Stallions play the Brahmas so differently than when we saw them this past weekend.
You know, it was nice to see the Stallions kind of get humbled a little bit, you know, and you know, they walked up into the San Antonio Brahmas stadium, and the Brahmas walked out like my boy Chris Boyd tell him 10 years ago, like this.
What's up, man?
It absolutely punished the Stallions. Just walked up in there, walked out of their locker room just like that. Yo, what's up? And punched them in the mouth. That's what happened this past weekend.
That's what you got to do. Mm-hmm.
So that's what they had to do. And then at the end of it, it would have been nice if this guy would have popped in and said this.
You like that? You like that?
Absolutely. I would have enjoyed that thoroughly. as playmakers and says, great way to prepare for shooting lights out today. The two of you are comedy. Doing our best, bro. Doing our best out here in these streams. And Sick Diggy says, nah at Drew Willingham. That was just a spin on that very popular expression by our man at base. Plus, the blue on the Norwegian flag is dark blue.
And the phrase he's talking about is what in the all types of blue.
Well, yeah, but I know that part. I always know that part. But when it comes to the background, that's what I thought he was talking about. And I'll leave this one for you there, Cole.
Okay. So Sick also says, when the triple threat match in the in or out sports debate takes place, stay on your toes at Cole Sports. At Kyle Nash is as sadistic as a high. Oh, let me do this. John Facenda style. When the triple threat match in the in or out sports debate takes place, stay on your toes at Cole Sports. At Kyle Nash is as sadistic as a high school vice principal who's also the football coach.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I don't know what it is about assistant principals being the head coach.
Look,
because that happened in my school too.
And also in the words of John Facenda, I am aware that Kyle Nash, when it comes to football knowledge, he will hit you. Let me see how I can describe it. He'll hit you across the face, and his knowledge basically is as subtle as a punch. I get it. Yes, I know.
It is time. It is almost time. And this one, he says, well stated at Cole Sports, one learns a lot more from losing than from winning. Adversity develops character. We all need certain trials and tribulations. That's what separates the men from the boys.
Well said, Stick. Well said, Sick. Yeah. And I think that's the case here. Yeah.
Sick has been dropping dimes this past couple of days. Definitely got to give him props, especially for what he's done in the past 2 days on my program. Got to give him a shout on that as always. But guys, we've gotten through our first segment, the Gridiron Scoop. I mean, not the Gridiron Scoop, the opening drive where we talked about and recapped Week 9 action in the UFL. We're going to take our first commercial break, but when we come on back, we've got that Gridiron Scoop to get through, as well as the featured attractions before we round it out. See you here on the other side.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right?
The right one, baby.
989 on two. Ready? Break.
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network proudly presents The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson, live every weekday morning beginning April 29th at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast, every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason Whitlock.
And welcome back to Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting gridiron action. We are back for episode 39 of said program. We've gone through our opening drive. Now we've got the gridiron scoop we've got to take this into and talk about some things that we've got on the slate of topics for today. Pretty much when it comes to the gridiron scoop, we've got Brandon Aiyuk targeting Amon St. Brown's $120 million deal. This targeted deal comes out this past week, after all of the hype that's been surrounding Brandon Aiyuk and the contract status throughout this offseason leading into the 2024 season. Cole, when it comes to Brandon Aiyuk seeking this $120 million deal, do you think that his production for the 49ers warrants this type of deal?
If I were Snowman, I would say yes. Since I'm not Snowman, I would say no. And it is not because I don't think Brandon Aiyuk sucks as a wide receiver or I think that he is horrible. No, he actually right now is the best wide receiver weapon. Now, yes, I know the team has Christian McCaffrey and the team has Deebo Samuel. Well, Deebo Samuel to me is the best dual threat they have, or at least the most explosive dual threat they have. I'll put it that way. The most reliable dual threat they have, of course, is Christian McCaffrey. But Aiyuk is the guy that they have to rely on to stretch the field down the field. He doesn't have the speed per se, but he does have the route running ability to get open down the field. So he's going to get that money. I don't know if he's going to get the exact same Amon St. Brown type money, but I don't think he deserves that Amon St. Brown type money because Brandon Aiyuk is part of a really good offense. He's like one cog in it. To me, you take off Amon St. Brown from the Lions, and yes, they do have other pieces. I mean, they have Montgomery and they have Gibbs in the backfield, and they have other pieces that are growing too as we speak. But you take St. Brown off of the Lions, that offense doesn't click quite as well. So, to me, I think you're dealing with the biggest cog, and probably the biggest reason why Jared Goff got the contract he's gotten. But that being said, I think Aiyuk will get the money. I don't know if he's deserving quite, though, the money that Amon St. Brown is getting right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of questionable on that too, because Brandon Aiyuk, only has 4 years of service in the NFL right now. He did have 1,342 yards this past season, but
he produced last year, no question.
Yeah, but he was kind of down on touchdowns. He had 7 touchdowns in comparison to 8 from the year before, and he played in one less game this season, only playing in 16 games. So I can see based on your receiving yards, you had 300 more receiving yards than you had the year before, and 500 more receiving yards than you did 2 years before. And in both of those years prior, you had played in 17 games. So you had more production in less games, except for you probably would have had that 8th touchdown he played in 17 games. But still, you were a beast when it came to nabbing those yards last year. Right. And I think it does warrant a pay increase. But I'm with you on the fact of I don't think he necessarily has earned Amon St. Brown's money because, without him on the Lions, I don't think that Jared Goff and that offense is having the success that they're having. Or going as far in the playoffs as they did last year. They might be putting up similar type of numbers and might be able to have a decent season and get to the playoffs. But to actually do damage in the playoffs that they did last year, I don't think they would without him. Now, Aiyuk, on the other hand, I think that the 49ers would be just as good of a team without him. I'm just going to say it. Like, I'm not, would the production drop off a little bit if they had somebody else where they can get 1,300 yards receiving necessarily? No, I don't think so. But I don't think at the same time that, if you have a receiver that has 800 receiving yards and then the next person has an additional 200 receiving yards that they would have had without Aiyuk being there, who's to say those 1,000 receiving yards combined can't do similar production for the team as far as the type of wins they were getting, and they were having wins by a substantial lead. So it's not like without Aiyuk they'd be losing. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think that he's the difference maker like a Christian McCaffrey and like Brock Purdy. Like, if you're going to pay somebody in the upcoming near future, like you're going to have to pay Brock Purdy soon. You've only got a little bit more time left on that deal. I don't think Brandon Aiyuk deserves that type of money.
Because I was going to say, I think what sucks about the timing with Brandon Aiyuk is that the 49ers really do believe the next contract they must sign to an extension or a long-term deal is Brock Purdy.
And it's coming up soon. I mean, it'll be here before you know it. So, and Six says here, he said, my question is whether the 49ers should be paying Aiyuk that much. If they say yes, he's going to have to back it up this upcoming season. And do you think that if Aiyuk gets maybe not necessarily that contract, but something in the ballpark of $100 million, do you think he's going to be one of those players that as soon as he gets paid, we start to see the production, drop off a little bit? Or do you think, like Six saying, do you think that, if they give him that much and they say yes, do you think he will back it up?
I think he can back it up, and I think he probably will. I don't think he will drop off significantly unless he's injured. This is how I look at it. Unless and until they decide to have Deebo Samuel just straight up line up in the slot or line up wide 100% of the time. Because I think that's the only way that I can see Aiyuk's numbers drop. If it's not injury, then you will probably see that drop. But they seem committed in making Samuel an X factor, where he lines up in the slot at times, lines up wide sometimes, lines up behind the quarterback sometimes. So to me, it is all contingent on if they make Deebo Samuel again 100% a pass catcher. If so, then yes, Aiyuk becomes expendable, in my opinion. But if not, and if he plays the same role as before, I think he'll produce similar numbers, because I really believe that Purdy feels a little bit more comfortable going downfield now. So that's the benefit for Aiyuk. Now, can he stay healthy? That's the next question. So far, he proves he can, but we know how long seasons in the NFL and long careers in the NFL can be affected year to year by injury bugs.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely talk a little bit more in depth on that here in the upcoming topic that we have for this one. And when it comes to that, we've got to talk about veteran center Billy Price retires after terrifying blood clot. Billy Price, a 2018 first-round draft pick, announced his retirement from the NFL on Saturday because of the potential of the complications from a blood clot. In the blink of an eye, everything can be taken away, Price wrote on Instagram. On April 24th, he had emergency pulmonary embolism surgery to remove a saddle clot that was entering both of his lungs. As a healthy 29-year-old, an unprovoked pulmonary embolism with no further medical explanation is terrifying. and he is truly thankful to be alive today. Unfortunately, I will be retiring from the NFL as the risk of the internal bleed while on blood thinners creates tremendous risk. Price Center last played in the NFL with the Arizona Cardinals during the 2022 season. He played in 69 career games, 45 of them starts with the Bengals, Giants, and Cardinals since being selected by Cincinnati with the 21st pick of the 2018 NFL draft out of Ohio State. With the Buckeyes, he won the Remington Trophy, which honors the nation's top center in 2017. Cole, when it comes to this situation right here, you know, how heartbreaking of a situation is to you, and what are your thoughts on this subject right here?
You don't ever want to see anybody have their career curtailed by a medical emergency, and it's unfortunate that this has happened to him. And look, prayers to him, prayers to his family, and prayers to the medical team, of which he might have to now personally surround himself with, to have him live with not only life away from the gridiron, but also life in having to deal with blood clots and having your blood thinned and going through the procedure and the scenario of making sure that you don't do things such as lose an appendage or even lose a limb, because that is devastating. All right, so when you get to the NFL, more than likely you have played the sport 15 years, more than likely. I mean, I'm talking about you probably started in Pop Warner, and you probably had that dream of, I want to be in the NFL, and you did your best on all levels, from Pop Warner to junior high to high school to college and to the pros, to be the best you can be, no matter if it's in the books or on the gridiron. You did your best to be at your best. So here it is, early in this guy's career, and he's not even past 27, I won't think. I'd say he's probably between the ages of 20, 25 and 27. To have that happen to you is devastating. And to say, okay, I'm calling it quits 6 years after he gets drafted, oh yeah, it's a blow. It's a big time blow. And now he has to find some type of sustenance, and now he has to think about life after football, probably earlier than he planned on doing so. So hopefully he can have that, and hopefully the NFL helps him get on his feet and have him stay on his feet, and they treat him as a fraternity member. You still belong in our club, although yes, you don't put on the uniform, the pads, and the helmet, and the cleats, and you don't step out every Sunday onto any of our 31 fields. We get it. We understand it. You were part of us, and hopefully they can help him transition, and hopefully they can stay with him after he transitions.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm 100% with you on that one. It's definitely an unfortunate situation to have to experience. However, we definitely wish you the best on the other side of your new journey. And when it comes to our next one here, we have to talk about the Michigan Panthers extending their longest win streak in the UFL with the 26-22 comeback victory in Houston that we talked about earlier. And the Michigan Panthers almost wilted in the Texas heat in the second half, but found a way to come out of Houston with a 26-22 win on Sunday for their fifth straight win. The win improves Michigan to 7-2 this season and extends the longest current win streak in the UFL, but doesn't change their destiny for the next 2 weeks. The Panthers will end the UFL inaugural regular season on Saturday in Birmingham, Alabama against the 8-1 Stallions, and then return to Birmingham on June 8th for the USFL Conference crown and a berth for the UFL championship game. Based on everything that we talked about, with the way that week 9 ended, and now with what we're looking forward to for week 10, I don't really want to go through too much of a preview for that because, we'll get to that here in a little bit with the upcoming games. But My question with this is, Do you think that playing the Stallions in back-to-back weeks, this week for week 10 and the following week for, the USFL championship to determine
Mm.
who gets to the UFL championship game, do you think this is going to be a positive thing for the Panthers, or it's going to be a positive thing for the Stallions?
Let's see. It'll be positive for both, but I think it'll be more of a positive for the Stallions. And I'll get to why I think it'll be a positive for the Stallions when we preview the game. But here's why it will also be a positive for the Panthers. It looks like the USFL Division Championship is still in play, so it looks like if the Panthers win, they'll host that game. That's what I'm assuming. So there's a lot at stake, and whenever, like I said earlier, like I said in opening drive, when you can have the opportunity to make your life as easy as possible or as comfortable as possible in the playoffs, you got to take your shot and do it. So there's a mighty carrot that's being dangled in front of both teams, and I like that for both, and I really like that for the Panthers. I mean, I think they could take advantage of it if they decide to actually play a 60-minute ball game against a team where you need to play 60 minutes against.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how things pan out for this week and how things pan out in that playoff division game. But there's one thing that we definitely know that we have to take it to now, and that is the Dog of the Week.
Total football talk.
Where are my dogs at? As we are back for the grand champ of the week, we got to talk about who our MVP of the week was. And for his selection, for his dog of the week, I give you Co.
I almost want to award this to Bears fan for being so adamant that you believe Caleb Williams is your solution, is your answer, when 5 years ago you said the same thing about Justin Fields, but I'm not awarding it to Bears fan. I might upset my partner when I do this, but I'm gonna have to do it anyway. You just simply have to give it up to a team that can take an opponent who they have just run roughshod over a league, and you don't even have them score double digits. I had to. I won't give it for the whole team. I'll give it to the San Antonio Brahmas defense.
Okay.
I'll give it to their defense. I won't give it to the whole team. I'll give it to the defense. And the reason why, and the reason being, is, as I said in the last segment, they came into the game scoring a total of 236 points for the first 8 games. You hold them to 9. I mean, just beautifully done. Beautifully done. You hold them under 100 yards rushing. You turn the ball over against them. You make it difficult for a really fluid offense to execute against you. Kudos to that staff, kudos to the strategy, kudos to the game plan, and kudos to the defense for executing it. That is how you do it. And now you have the confidence that if you to meet against the Stallions in the UFL championship, that you could say, we might not be able to play the same style against them. We may not play the same strategy against them, but we know that we can beat them. And if next week might be an indicator, we might be the only team as of right now to say that. And if we can beat them once, we can beat them again. So, yeah, to the Brahmas defense, all 11 of you, y'all my dogs.
I love that. I love that. It's a great selection for the week. And I love it even more because it set me up for a sole selection for my pick for dog of the week. And my pick, I'm going to keep it with a team that's relatively close to home for myself, and that being the DC Defenders and their running back core for what they did in this past weekend. 38 running attempts, 38 rushes for 168 rushing yards.
Beautiful.
For 3 touchdowns. When I think about that, when I think about the type of production, Cole and I have been yearning for this all UFL season long. When we think about, teams have got to establish the run. If you do not establish the run, you not only don't have a good chance to win the game, but you don't have a good chance of having a successful season because, running the ball, moving the chains, establishing time of possession, all of that stuff makes a big difference when it comes to not only winning a game, but winning a division and winning a season, winning a championship. Okay. So putting all this perspective, am I saying that the DC Defenders are going to win a championship this year? No, because they're pretty much out of contention at this point. But it gives you hope for the following season. It gives you hope for things that they can build on from beyond the 2024 season. So looking at this right here, based on what they did in production from this past weekend, when you have, old Damian Hagan's 11 running attempts for 46 yards, you have, CJ Harris, Cameron Harris, 13 attempts for 43 yards. You have Jordan Ta'amu also doing 4 carries for 38 yards and a touchdown. They had basically 6 different runners on the day between their quarterback, between a couple wide receivers that were running some different routes to move the chains. And then they also had several different running backs running the ball on the day. So the team effort, along with the consistency in the play calling and being able to mix things up is what helped establish the running game for this team. And not only that, it helped establish a victory for the Defenders, who definitely needed one, as they want to end this season on a good note. They didn't have the greatest of time throughout the beginning to middle part of the season. Now you get to a point where your back was against the wall coming into this past game, 3-5. You got to win this game. You got to win the upcoming game in order to have a 500 record for the season. And their back was against the wall. They got it done, and they did so on the backs of their running back core. For that, and for that reason alone, that is why they are my pick for the dog of the week.
Mm-hmm. Look, when I hear a stat of 38 rushing attempts, 168 rushing yards, and 3 TDs on the ground, yeah, that does my heart good. I love that. And yes, that's a great pick. That's a great pick.
I appreciate it. And Playmaker's making a great pick. Says, great show, fellas. Got a bailout.
Yeah.
Breaking news broke in basketball. And for those of you who are fans of the Boston Celtics and love basketball, that news is that Bill Walton has passed away at 71, unfortunately. So, a legendary player for them. He played for the Trailblazers too, didn't he? And won the championship with the Trailblazers.
Yeah, but he actually won a championship with Trailblazers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. See, I don't just know football, y'all. What's up? It's total sports action. But rest in peace, though, to Bill Walton, because he was, formidable not only for the Trailblazers, but for the Celtics as well in the 80s, before retiring. So, and also had a son, out of his kids, Luke Walton, won a couple championships with the Lakers. Dumpster Pelican head coach, but great as a bench player. A bench player did his job. Not a great head coach, but, that's something that him and his dad probably joked about. It would have been nice if I could ever find out that he called him something other than a dumpster pelican, but something in similar context. Sick Diggy also has an ad read that I only feel comfortable letting you do it.
All right. The dog of the week, a.k.a. Grand Champ, is brought to you by Bad Dog K9 Academy. We raise dogs to be loving pets and excellent service dogs. We're that bad because we're that good. Bad Dog K9 Academy. and Strong Pup, the best array of feed and toys for your best friend. Let's raise them well and raise them strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely sick with another great ad read, and that is not a total.
Surprise, motherfucker.
It's not.
No, it's not.
Guys, that does it for our Dog of the Week picks. We have our final commercial break to get to, and then when we come back, we've got some things in the featured attractions, as well as, my favorite part, and that is the Snowflake of the Week for this show. We'll see you guys here on the other side of our final commercial break.
Coming up next, the featured attractions. This is Total Football Talk. COMI Media Incorporated. Creating content magic in the real world.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D Willy in the evening.
this Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $ D Willy 87. Go ahead and hit him up on the Cash App and go ahead and give him some Willie bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie bucks?
SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your commanders to be repped right? Well, D Willy is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern, 10:05 a.m. Central on the SIRTOBA Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers, right side, commanders. Where my soldiers, left side,
Welcome back, Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting gridiron action. We are back from our final commercial break, and we got some things to talk about here when it comes to the featured attractions. Let's go ahead and see what we've got on the other side of this one. And Cole, the NFL is to evaluate Paris and Dublin for future games on the international schedule. The NFL is performing its due diligence as it examines potential candidates to add to its international series of games. Henry Hodgson, the general manager for the league's UK office, told the Associated Press's Ken McGuire the work is underway to survey the necessary infrastructure. There's a feasibility study, as we would call it, in a number of different European cities, and Dublin is one of those, Hodgson said. Looking at the stadiums, taking local meetings will take away all of that information, digest it, and determine what the next steps are. When it comes to that, the NFL announced last December it would stage its first regular season game in Brazil. NBC Sports' Peter King wrote about the international series a month earlier and said, Spain and Brazil in the next 2 years, Paris in 2025 or beyond, and Dublin at some point soon. With all that being said, what are your thoughts about expanding the scenery for NFL games to Paris and Dublin and beyond, for 2025 and beyond?
I'm about to hit them cheeks with this horsepower joint. I'm sorry, my bad. My bad. Let me stop. Parroting Cameron and seeing an interview. This has been something that the NFL's been trying to do for I don't know how long. Probably ever since I'd say, well, when I started high school. So yeah, since the mid '80s, they've been wanting to have this international presence. And I think now they have found, I guess you could say, a groove where it's not necessarily they're pushing a franchise, but now they're just pushing games that they can play across the seas. So they already play games in England, and they already play games in Germany, and they throw a bone. They throw a bone to Mexico once in a year. So you already have games playing there, and now they're expanding it. Like you said, Brazil is going to be the second game of the year that they play in the regular season in Sao Paulo, not even Rio, the larger city of Brazil, Sao Paulo. They're going to be playing there, and it doesn't surprise them that they're going to be playing in Paris. And I'm sure the NFL is probably going to be looking at Paris when the Olympics go there in 2 months to see how people will probably take to American football there. Not surprised. Not surprised, since I figured, okay, so they're playing in Germany and they're playing in England. England was a given, but they're playing in Germany. So I'm sure the next places, to me, I was thinking actually would be France and the Netherlands. Because I figured, okay, they'll probably have some type of foothold in Amsterdam, some type of foothold in Paris. I'm sure they'll have some type of foothold in Munich not in Munich, but let me see, Barcelona, I would say, in Portugal, and I'm sure they'll probably play a game either in Rome or Venice or some big city in Italy. The league I'm talking about, they want to have this game be so international to where here's the end game for them. I know they are sick to their stomach when you have some of these smart mark fans who would say, especially those who come from the soccer world, that say Super Bowl only gets you 120 million viewers, but the World Cup gets you sometimes 1.3, some 1.03, sometimes 1.04, sometimes 1.07 billion viewers. Difference though is Super Bowl's played every February. World Cup is only once every 4 years, just like the Olympics. What I believe the NFL wants to have happen is I think they want to uptick that number of 120 million people who watch the Super Bowl to probably about 300 million, to where they can actually go to that smart mark fan and say, yes, all right, so you may get almost 1.1 billion people who watch soccer in the World Cup once every 4 years. You combine our numbers and we'll surpass that and be 1.2 billion with those 4 years by having 300 plus million people watch the Super Bowl every year. To me, I think that is what they're targeting. They want to actually say that American football is the biggest sport in the world, bar none. And I don't think the NFL will be happy until they achieve that end.
Very, very well said. And speaking of targeting, we definitely have to shift this into our next part when it comes to this on the featured attraction.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
You know, you bring up a very key word there, Cole, and when it comes to targeting, you know, the NFL is targeting a $25 billion in revenue stake by 2027. Netflix deal will likely make it a reality. You know, way back in 2010, before the lockout, Deflategate, Colin Kaepernick, COVID-19, and Patrick Mahomes' third Super Bowl triumph, Roger Goodell huddled with the NFL owners and revealed an ambitious financial target. The NFL commissioner declared his goal for the league's revenue to hit $25 billion by 2027. At that time, the NFL generated around $8 billion in annual revenues. Looking at that, he thought then it certainly put the carrot out there, and that being your buddy from the Dallas Cowboys, owner Gerald Jones, reflected for the USA Today in last week's NFL owners meeting and wrapped up in Nashville. But he was more right than he was wrong. Andrew Brandt remembers the former Green Bay Packers executive, a foremost authority on NFL financial matters, shrugged at the thought that the league could increase its revenues roughly by $1 billion per year. Goodell doesn't say anything without it being backed up somewhere, Brandt told USA Today Sports. Fast forward to now, Goodell's $25 billion goal is undoubtedly in reach, Jones said. We're almost there and could exceed it. Although the NFL won't publicly divulge its figures, it is believed that the annual revenues have surpassed $20 billion, which coincides with a $30 million rise in salary cap to a record of $255.4 million per team in 2024. With that being said, Cole, how do you think a Netflix deal would boost the NFL?
I think it will boost it depending on the type of deal they have with Netflix. I mean, they already have their foothold in Peacock. I mean, they're doing playoff games with Peacock and Amazon Prime. And of course, Amazon Prime, you normally have to catch their games every Thursday. So this is not a market that's new to the NFL. I think what they want to do in this case is they want to say, okay, we realize that the traditional TV viewing, although it still is king, it's not quite as king as, like, say, back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. So we know we got to capture a different market. We got to capture the more transient football fan. We got to capture the football fan that rather watch live streams instead of watching broadcasts on television. So that will help. And again, go into the smart mark fans and shoot them again. They like to compare stats of, the sport, people aren't watching it as much as they did before. Well, no, that's not true. They're just not watching it on that platform like before, because they're watching it on different platforms. Because you have all that, and of course you also have YouTube wanting to put their hat in the ring and say, yeah, you buy a package and you can get all the games you want in the NFL too. So they're trying to go after the streaming market, and they're targeting people. I probably will warm my brother's heart here. They're trying to attract people your age and under, because I think the NFL wants people to know, no, this is not going to be an old fogey game. We saw what happened with baseball, where back in the 80s, everything was great and lovely and grand, and people loved the sport, and everybody and their mama, heck, even grandmamas played the sport. And now you claim that the sport is old, it's antiquated, it's passed you by. You really don't care about it. It's boring. Not that I agree with any of that, but I've heard all of that. But so have the NFL, and seeing how people view MLB, and NFL is trying to get it ahead of the curve and say that's not going to be us.
Yeah, I hear that. I feel that. And when it comes to the baseball opinion, oh, my bad. It must have been the interwebs messing with us. But I was going to say that the biggest thing when it comes to your comparison with baseball right there, I would say the people that are acting all snowflakish about how it's boring are the ones that suck too bad that didn't get to play it.
100, bro. 100. 100. Because I most certainly don't believe that. 100.
Yeah, I'm an absolute fan of baseball. You are. I mean, we've talked about it here and there before. This is primarily a football show, but when it comes to talking about snowflakes, we only have one more thing that we can do when it comes to that, and that is take this into one of my favorite segments of all of my shows. That is the Snowflake of the Week. And That was created by the genius of the EP of all EPs, Co Johnson, that being the snowflake of the week. There he is. It's time for him to answer from his transition when it comes to his selection for this week's snowflake of the week.
Of all your shows? Wow, now that's saying something. I would focus on, well, I am going to focus on Harrison Butker. For the casual fan, he was, I guess you could say he was a nobody to you until he did a commencement speech last Sunday. And it was to a Catholic school, a Catholic college, where he basically spouted a lot of traditional values. People will probably call him antiquated and old and Archie Bunkerish, and times passing by where basically it was like saying that the society has devolved into guessing people's genders and the woman's places at the home and that type of thing. But I'm not focused on him. And the reason being, well, that's his opinion. That's cool. Whatever he thinks is what he thinks. I'm going to focus, though, on the NFL, because when that speech was heard and it was seen, and the NFL grabbed onto it and they sniffed the controversy, they were saying things like, quote, well, we don't really believe in the types of things that Harrison espouses, close quote. See, that was 2 days after the speech was made. But fast forward a week when we saw that red, white, and mustard number 7 jersey be the number 1 seller in the NFL. The statement from the Shield came as follows, quote, we really believe in different philosophies and different opinions. I mean, we're not all a monolith. We all actually have different opinions. We have 30,000 people who we employ on the field. So how can we have this one opinion and castigate him for it? It's the differences that make the world and the NFL go around. Close quote. So you mean to tell me, Shield, when the dude wasn't making any money for you or barely making money for you, you really wanted to distance yourself as far from Mr. Butker as East is from the West, as they say in the Bible. But when he's making that dough, you like that old Coca-Cola commercial. I like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I like to buy a world of Coke and keep it company. That's the song I sing. That's what you all are doing in the Shield now? We're all kumbayaing. We all saying that we're all one family, that we all think differently, which is true. Yes, we all have different thoughts and different ideas, but they play under the same umbrella. I get it. Yes. But come on, man. You cannot be that obvious where it's like, well, we'll make a more antiseptic viewpoint. We'll make a more cleansing viewpoint of this and say, since the dude is selling jerseys, it may be a dissenting opinion, but we're not going to cast aspersions on him. When you came close to doing it the week before, when you didn't see numbers like that. It's a shame, Shield, that morality seems to take a backseat to the coin. And yet again, that's how it is. But for Mr. Butker, I will still say to you, sir, you better watch it, sir. Because the moment you start having a slump, you better look for the exit.
Cole, when you were doing your hallelujahs for a second, all I could think of for a second was, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. My head is speaking of taking the light and letting it shine as much as these bright lights are shining on me right now here at the house. I'm gonna take this to my pick for the snowflake of the week, and Cole's was definitely great. I'm glad that I didn't put that topic in there because that was almost in the featured attractions. And I'm glad I didn't. I left it out so that way Cole had his moment for that for the Snowflake of the Week pick. And you're welcome, man. And for that, I'm gonna have to shift it into the UFL mainly because we're almost done with the UFL season. I mean, CFL is coming up right around the corner. We're literally right away from the CFL being here. No, there's nothing about the CFL that's going to be a part of my Snowflake of the Week pick. But what I will say is a UFL team that started this season out hot. A team that Cole and I were talking about had a really good chance of playing in the XFL championship to determine who goes to the UFL. And based on their play the past 2 weeks, it seems like that's going to be out of reach. And I'm going to put the finger and point the finger solely at the backup quarterback for this team. And that is for the St. Louis Battlehawks. I have to give this to Manny Wilkins for this past week. His play, 179 passing yards. He had a touchdown. He had two rushing touchdowns for a combination of 3 touchdowns. But the big stat line here is he threw 3 interceptions. He threw 3 interceptions. You lost to a team that was 1-7 coming into this game, and that being the Arlington Renegades, a team that had been playing like absolute dumpster Pelicans on paper, even though they were hanging tough and staying close in a lot of their games they had lost. But Manny Wilkins comes in the past 2 weeks playing for someone as an AJ McCarron who hasn't been able to play, and they've suffered back-to-back loss. No, they did win last week, barely, but they lost this week in a game that they really needed to win against a team that is playing for peanuts, that is not playing for anything meaningful. You still are. You still had a chance. And now, looking at it right here and looking at what this team is doing, does this mean that their season is completely up in smoke? No, not at the current moment. But at the same time, looking at the St. Louis Battlehawks team, you needed to have somebody like a Quentin Dormady like they have for the San Antonio Brahmas who can come in. And Dormady's played half the season right now at this point, coming in, playing for Chase Garbers and the Brahmas, putting up decent numbers to where that team's still winning. That team, through 9 weeks, is 7-2. And they've had a lot of their play come from their backup quarterback. You have Manny Wilkins who comes in, who apparently can scramble on the ground and get you yards on the ground, and apparently can get you scores with his legs, okay? So running the ball, he's fine. But throwing the ball, 3 interceptions is inexcusable. And the fact you guys don't have anybody else to lean on goes to show you how much you're depending on A.J. McCarron. From what it looks like, this is more than likely A.J. McCarron's last season playing professional football. I mean, he hasn't really outright said it. I don't believe so. I could be wrong with misremembering it. But I'm pretty sure. I know Cody Latimer, who's playing for the Brahmas, has announced that he's not coming back after this year. This is his last season. But McCarron is probably on the fence, and depending on how bad his injury woes are and how this season ends for the Battlehawks will probably determine what he decides to do, because he can always go back and be the backup in Cincinnati, be the third stringer like he has been for the Cincinnati Bengals. But right here for the Battlehawks, a season that had been coasting so well for this team in the past week to 10 days has kind of fallen on hard times. Dusty Rhodes told you about hard times. He praised about hard times. And now the Battlehawks are living it when it comes to hard times out here in this gridiron.
I'm trying my best to not channel Dusty Rhodes. They put hard times on my family. In public, if you will. I'm trying my best not to do Dusty Rhodes. When you said hard times, I'm trying. And then I also was trying not to sing Hanging Tough again. But yes, yeah. But I agree with you, man. I totally agree with you.
Absolutely, and I appreciate it. We definitely have some solid picks for the Snowflake of the Week, and for that, it's time to take it to our post game. Actually, no, we got to go to the 2-minute drill. What am I talking about? So for the 2-minute drill right here, we got to talk about the Week 10 games that we have on at Bay right here. And we have the Michigan Panthers taking on the Birmingham Stallions. And I didn't even update the rest of it because that's right. I was running out of time. But what I will say right here is when it comes to our games this upcoming weekend, it's our last week of regular season action. You know, many of these teams won't be playing after this weekend, and we have to look at the first game of the week. It seems like we've got our first 2 games of the weekend are teams that are definitely either in it or still clamoring to be in it. And you know, you got the Michigan Panthers who are 7-2 traveling to Birmingham, who take on the Stallions, who are 8-1 on this Saturday at 2:00 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN. What are your thoughts about this game, Cole? And do you think the Stallions will bounce back against the Panthers?
Well, since I think this is for the USFL Divisional Championship, definitely without question, there's some high stakes involved here. What I believe is you have the Panthers, who they have the carrot dangled in front of them. They win this, they'll host the USFL Championship, and I think that's a really good carrot to dangle in front of them. However, that same carrot is dangled in front of the Stallions, and they took a huge loss too. And unfortunately, I hate it for the Panthers. They're going to have to draw the Stallions to play really, really ugly. They probably could. Unfortunately, they're going to be playing probably the most focused Birmingham Stallions team in a minute that we've seen. And I feel for the Panthers because I think the Stallions are going to take this. And I think they're going to, like you said earlier, I think they're going to actually host the USFL Championship too.
Yeah, we saw Jake Bates be a little humanized this past weekend again, and he's, missed another field goal. With that being said, if the Stallions come out there angry with the way that they lost this past week, being able to barely put up any points against the Brahmas, I think they're going to come into this game ready to smack the Panthers in the mouth, humble the Panthers a little bit more than they've been humbled in this past week or so, and take this team to the brink. I think the Stallions finish the season 9-1 when it comes to how they finish this game right here.
Who's giving them the business?
Also on Saturday at 4:00 p.m. Eastern time, and I gotta say the UFL did better with spacing the times of the games out this week. As we have a game on Saturday that follows that 2:00 game between the San Antonio Brahmas, who were 7-2, and the St. Louis Battlehawks, who were 6-3. Looking right here, this game starts at 4:00 p.m. Eastern time on Fox. Do you think that it is this team right here, the San Antonio Brahmas, that finishes this season at 8-2, and the Battlehawks suffer another loss at 6-3?
I really think it is contingent on if McCarron can see the field. Yes, it's at home for them. And again, similar situation. Winner becomes the XFL division champion and hosts the XFL championship on their home field. It is very important for the Battlehawks to win this game because I think we are in agreement here when what I'm about to say here. There isn't a better home field advantage in terms of crowd participation than what the St. Louis Battlehawks have.
Yes.
I think they lap the field when it comes to that. So I think it is huge and important for the Battlehawks to win this game at all costs. They need to win this game because I think the Brahmas can take care of business if the two teams meet again in San Antonio next week. But I think the advantage would not be nearly as strong for the Brahmas as it would be for the Battlehawks. Now, who do I have in this game? I'm leaning toward the Brahmas because I'm loving that defense. Boy, what gives me pause though is that offense struggles mightily too, though. But that defense is really, really it's lights out. And then the Brahmas, look, kudos to them. So they played the Stallions, who they were the number one, or at least they were the most. They were the team that scored the most in the league coming to their game. And now they play the Battlehawks, who now is the current team that has scored the most in the league. I think they can actually do. I won't say shutout, but I think they can actually succeed because if McCarron is on his last legs, that might spell trouble for the Battlehawks. But the Battlehawks really need this game more, though. but I think the Brahmas are going to win it because their defense is awesome.
Yeah, I agree with you too. The Brahmas have been, making a claim this year as one of the best teams in the league, and the fact that they're at this point 7-2 at this point in the year and have a chance to get 8 wins, to win 80% of your games on the year, hell, even 70% is a testament to how great that team is. Wade Phillips, for him to hang his hat in his professional coaching career at some point in the very near future with the success of a team like this is a great way to go out. So definitely awesome to watch. And I'm with you. I think the Brahmas take this game right here. And, I think it'll be a tight one if McCarron can come back. But if it's Manny Wilkins in there, based on how he's played this past week, I don't have any hope for the Battlehawks team this upcoming weekend.
Who's giving them the business?
And for our Sunday games, it looks like they picked the best games to play on Saturday and the dumpster pelican of all teams to play on Sunday. As Sunday at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, you have the Arlington Renegades, who are 2-7, traveling to D.C., take on the Defenders, who are 4-5, and they are probably the better of the 4 teams who are playing on Sunday. But, again, it's a 12 o'clock game on ABC. When it comes to this, how decisive do you think that the Defenders win this rematch of the XFL championship from last year?
I don't know if it's going to be all that decisive. I like what the Renegades are. I mean, they battled, they scratch, they claw, they do their best to put themselves in position to win. I don't see anything different. But I do see an L for the Renegades, simply because I think the Defenders have wanted to put their best foot forward, as evidenced by what we saw last week, by running for almost 170 yards and having 3 touchdowns on the ground. They do that here. I can see them easily come out with a victory, and decisive probably would be maybe 10 points. But I just love the fight that the Renegades offer. So I think the Defenders will have to earn it, but I think the Defenders are up to the challenge to earn it.
And I believe in that too. And I think that the Defenders take this game right here, end their season on a high note, winning the last couple games of the season to have a 5-5 record and have something to build on for the upcoming season. So with that being said, I agree with you wholeheartedly on this. The Defenders taking this one.
Who's giving them the business?
And with this right here, we have our final game of the week on the 2-minute drill, and that is the 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern contest on Sunday between the Houston Roughnecks, who travel to Memphis Showboats in Memphis, who are 1-8, that being the Roughnecks, as well as the Showboats. The battle of the 2 worst teams in the league, 7 p.m. Eastern time for our final regular season game of the year. How much of a snooze fest is this game going to be, Cole? And are you looking forward to this game at all, in your honest opinion?
No. No, I'm not. This actually might, because all right, I have a confession to make. So I have a really hard time going to sleep Sunday night and waking up early Monday morning, and sometimes my butt is kicked with certain Mondays. until probably until the afternoon, where thankfully I have something like this to boost me and wake me up when we're on our normal time at 4 p.m. Eastern on Monday. But this would be the cure for that. I would want to actually watch this and go right straight to sleep. You have the Showboats who they don't have much to show, period. And you have the Roughnecks who of all their 6 units, they probably have the best unit in their in their defense. And still that's not really saying all that much. Of course, I'm rooting for Houston. I want them to win. But I really believe they're going to hand this game to the Showboats.
Yeah, I'm going to put it right down the ground. I'm going to throw it on the ground for you right now. I'm not even going to watch this game.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
Good.
The
I'm glad
other
you're not.
games, this will be a straight reading off the stats for a Monday. But the other games are very intriguing between the other ones. Even the first Sunday game, I will be checking those out throughout the week. But this game right here, I'm not excited about, especially when we talk about, these two teams right here. They've been underperforming all year long. The Roughnecks are lucky to not be 0-9 after scraping that victory against the Renegades earlier. The Renegades,
right,
should have more than 2 wins in the year, and they have been smacked around the league a little bit and hopefully can bounce back next year. But between the Roughnecks and the Showboats, these two teams have been the most depressing of teams to watch, cover, and reiterate what we saw throughout the majority of these 10 weeks that we've had to be doing coverage for this, for the UFL. So that's why I say I am not going to watch this game. And if I do, it's going to be like Cole said, for a reason to fall asleep as fast as I possibly can.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
With that being said, it is now time for this.
Total Football Talk.
As long as it's one.
It's that time in the show. We start wrapping things up, put a big old bow on that unit, send it home. And when it comes to the post game and our closing thoughts for the show, let you start it out there, Cole, and send it home for the people.
So today is normally the day where we commemorate those who gave their lives and sacrificed for us to actually have the freedom of even doing this. So of course, to all of those who have fought for our freedom, I believe I speak for Drew when I say this. We love you, we thank you, and we appreciate the sacrifice of battling for having this freedom of enjoying a day like this and enjoying a show like this. Now, in terms of football related final thoughts I may have. So now we're in OTA season in the NFL. And of course, we're now winding it down to the UFL and the CFL. That's on the horizon very soon. If not, I think a few weeks from now, we'll start talking about the CFL now.
We break it down next week.
Yeah. So, so we'll get a chance to actually probably talk about all 3 of the leagues at the same time, which is going to be strange, but cool at the same time. But I'm loving how fans are wanting to look at certain players and look at certain teams and say, well, they're going to do this. Talking about the NFL, they're going to do this and they're going to be successful, and they haven't played a down in the 2024 season yet. Case in point, the number 1 overall draft pick for this past draft, and that would be Caleb Williams. We actually had someone like Emmanuel Acho, and I came this close to making you the snowflake of the week, sir. but I had to put this now because I had to mention this here. He had the nerve to opine and say, let me see if I can remember the quote verbatim. Oh, here we go. Quote, Caleb Williams is a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. Close quote. Mr. Acho, you definitely are out your mind, and you must be smoking what Antonio Brown is smoking, since he claims that he's bankrupt now. You must be smoking what he smokes, because there is no way on any planet that you could put a guy who has not had an NFL snap in a regular season game, much less a preseason game, much less a Hall of Fame game. That won't take place before another 2+ months from now. And you say that this guy who hasn't sniffed an NFL stadium yet as an NFL player is better than the 3-time Super Bowl champion, the 3-time Super Bowl MVP, and this 2-time MVP of the league. And oh, by the way, the player and the quarterback that people say is by far and away the best the best quarterback today, and could be one of the best of all time. That guy trails Caleb Williams. You, sir, with that, I'm trying to be nice here. You, sir, with that absolute drivel. Let me see if I could find it. Yes, you, sir, with that. Take. You deserve to be all of these.
Because you're a man, you're out your mind.
And there has to be, that's not one that you could designate. All of them are you. Are you kidding me? Look, I get that you have to promote the product. I get that you have to cape for some of these individuals. And I get that you have to pump up the class of 2024. But you aren't supposed to come out your side of your neck talking BS takes like that. Come on, dude. You actually played the sport. You actually played it in college. You mean to tell me this is what you think? Come on, man. You got to do much better than that. Jeez. So I'll bottom line this real fast. OTAs are not a way that you can consider a player or a team good. You have to see how the product looks when they go through the training camp sessions, and they go through the involuntary voluntaries, and they go through the preseason. And then when they step on the field for the regular season after the preseason, then you get a gauge as to how they are. But we haven't even gotten to June yet. We just barely got 1 month away from the draft. And this is a take that we hear. Goodness gracious, I got a headache.
He is Emmanuel out your mind.
Yes. Enjoy the sport. I mean, come on, enjoy it for what it is. And don't come with these out of your behind takes. In fact, after this show, I'm going to take an Emmanuel Acho because I'm going to have a bowel movement. Jeez, man. Goodness gracious.
Whew. It comes to our post game. That was absolutely great. Got to give Cole.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Because he did. And when it comes to the words that come out of Emmanuel Acho's mouth,
That was a lie.
absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm going to piggyback on what Cole was saying as far as, you know, Memorial Day and being, you know, grateful for those of us who laid their bodies on the line, their lives and their livelihoods on the line for us to be here today. You know, out there fighting in the military, no matter what branch of service that they fought in. You know, your services, men and women, are definitely greatly appreciated by us here at Total Football Talk, as well as those that we are associated with out here in these streets and these streams, because we wouldn't be able to enjoy this and do this at full capacity without your work, today, yesterday, and the many, many years that came before and even after today. So thank you very much. As we wrap this thing up today. For me, past week and a half has definitely been a wild roller coaster of events, but to finally be back here for Memorial Day, get this episode, 39 episodes are in the book now, and we've got episode 40 next week. Cole was talking about how, we got CFL right around the corner. It's literally next week. We'll be talking about it, breaking down week 1, because week 1 starts that week on Thursday, I believe. I think it's Thursday, June 6th. So, next week. We'll be reviewing Week 10's action. We'll be breaking down the 2 games for the playoffs for the UFL the following week for the XFL Championship and the UFL Championship to determine who goes and plays in the USFL Championship. And luckily, CFL is going to be very similar to UFL, as it looks like there's only 4 games a week the way it's broken down. So we'll have a very similar format to how we were with the UFL, as the UFL is winding down and getting ready to end here soon. We have another football league to piggyback on this professional for us to continue just talking more than just the off-season news in the NFL, which gives us more compelling things to talk about, find new talent out there that maybe we can hype up to maybe eventually see in a league like the UFL or the NFL at some point in the near future. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing with the CFL and the coverage that we'll be bringing for that. Also, I have in mind, because we have a 2-hour show, and this is not a normal time that we do. I'll talk more about it with Cole off the air. We know some people like Ryan McCarthy and some others that follow CFL that hopefully we can maybe find some time, whether it's 30 minutes to an hour within an episode here and there, to get them in here to talk about their insider information that they know as CFL, because I'm not going to lie, guys, out of all 3 professional leagues, CFL is the least one that I know about. But I've been doing research on it as in the recent times to get ready for it. So I won't be ill prepared, but somebody like Brian McCarthy, who's watched it consistently throughout these past few years and even beyond that, is somebody that I feel like can come in here and help us out from time to time and talk, a little bit of CFL action, and we'll see how that goes. I've also got some other people in mind, but the scheduling and all that for them, it will make a difference, because, they might not have the same type of availability as we do when it comes to doing our show between 4 and 6 p.m. on Mondays. And, it's just an idea and a thought that you may see come into fruition in the near future, because CFL is literally right around the corner. But it has been an exciting and interesting UFL season, for us to be covering this now for, 9 consecutive weeks. This show has been on COMI Media and SIRTOBA Media for 39 consecutive weeks now. I take a lot of pride in that, in keeping this where it's at, because this show, it means a lot to me. And you guys are going to see next week a gift that was bestowed to me by some friends out here, some colleagues out here in this world that we have with the streams, that Total Football Talk is a part of something, and is actually it's part of a championship. That's the best way I can put it. But I look forward to showcasing that next week, as it sounds like I will have it by next week's episode 40. So a great way to commemorate episode 40 with that. Great way, to round out the first season of UFL action in football, especially with my guy Cole Johnson, rocking and rolling, getting ready for episode 40, the 40th consecutive week that we will be on the air with the show. And I'll even have a backdrop. I'll even have a green screen. I'm getting like Cole now. Look at this. Look at this background right here. It's not like Cole's, but I'm trying my best to get on that level out here in these streets.
It's looking good, bro. Looking good.
I appreciate it. Memorial Day shenanigans for you there, Cole. That's how it is. And it looks like smoking more like he's been drinking too much palm wine. Says Dick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And when it comes to shenanigans, when it comes to breaking down, the latest coverage in the world, sports, life, everything, make sure you guys tuning in every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to the BS3s Presents Morning Shift with my man Cole Johnson. Check them out on YouTube, BS3 Network, and on Roku, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. Central Time. And BS3 Network, if you're watching, Total Football Talk, it can go on other platforms too. You can always come holler at me or the creative services director who's on this show of BS3 Network, as we are now 40 weeks in and haven't heard anything on that side of the fence yet. So when it comes to this, we've only got one more thing left to do, and that is look at one amazing outro by the man himself, the EP of all EPs, Cole Johnson. Thank you all for tuning in. And as always, make sure you check us out on the social media platforms. My 1,000 list of things here that we still have to get the flow code thing on here. I know I'm failing and I'm trying my best out here in these streets, but you still know how to find me, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be watching right now. And of course, Cole simplified it right here with the flow code.com/page/host Cole Johnson. Hit up my man on his social media platforms, but most importantly, get ready to look at one amazing outro. And for Cole, I leave it with the greatest statement of all time.
Oh my goodness. You and your 100. That's hilarious. But I digress. Look, thank you guys for liking, sharing, commenting. Thank you guys, the tribe, for commenting, and thank you for subscribing. And thank you for hitting the notification bell so you can catch all content that comes for the SIRTOBA Media and the COMI Media YouTube channels. You'll love In or Out and Sports Debate, and of course D Willy in the evening, and then there's other stuff too. And of course, you'll have Mentality, which you can catch later on today too on the COMI Media YouTube channel. For Drew Willingham, I am Cole Johnson, here to say in parting, as we always do, in life, just like a tackle, keep your head up. And always remember, you got to play until the whistle blows.
And
So long,
especially on this holiday, please stay safe out here in these streets.
One.